Hello, my sweet summer children. I'm back with the juice to get you through the long nights. The long night until House of the Dragon or The Winds of Winter comes out. Everything you need to know about the House of the Dragon prequel can be found on my House of the Dragon playlist. It's House of the Dragon prep time, and this week we are going to be doing the Lord Fleabottom, the Rogue Prince, King of the Stepstones in the Narrow Sea, Daemon Targaryen. And this video is thick, so get your snacks because I got the juice. So let me know in the comments who you want me to do next. Daemon Targaryen is one of my favorite Targaryens ever. Daemon is a polarizing character. The character I would say he's most like from Game of Thrones is like Jaime Lannister and Tyrion Lannister as one person. And then let me explain. So he's like Tyrion, where he has this cunning and he makes smart strategic moves. He also likes to hang around with like the lowborn people and the whores. In another life, Daemon and Bronn would have for sure been besties. Daemon enjoys whoring like Tyrion. He's also like Tyrion because Daemon has that Tyrion complex about his birthright and not getting what he deserves, not getting the honor that is due to him. But all the while, he's still fiercely loyal to his house, House Targaryen. Well, his blood anyway. But Daemon is also like Jaime in a sense. He will do whatever he has to do no matter the cost. Jaime pushes Bran out of the window. Daemon sends assassins to kill a baby. There are no boundaries to what Daemon Targaryen will do for his cause, his rights, and the rights of those he loves. That smiling knight aspect of Jaime is in Daemon as well. Daemon is also a renowned swordsman like Jaime, but also some of Jaime's redeeming qualities are there as well. Jaime sacrifices his honor for the people of King's Landing. And so does Daemon, although it's not his honor that he sacrifices, it is his life. He sacrifices his life to end the bloody dance. But still, people will hate Daemon. He was purposely written to be divisive, but let's get into it. Over the centuries, House Targaryen has produced both great men and monsters. Prince Daemon was both. In his day, there was not a man so admired, so beloved, and so reviled in all Westeros. He was made of light and darkness in equal parts. To some, he was a hero. To others, the blackest of villains. That quote alone should let you know how people are going to be so divided about Daemon Targaryen when House of the Dragon comes out. So in order to understand Daemon Targaryen, let me start by doing some quick Targaryen lineage. So Good Queen Alysanne and her brother, King Jaeherys, had several children, like a football team of kids. Their third child was a boy. His name was Aemon Targaryen. He was King Jaehaerys' heir. Aemon would marry Jocelyn Baratheon, and they had a daughter, Rhaenys Targaryen, the wife of the sea snake. Aemon was killed, but Good Queen Alysanne and Jaehaerys' fourth-born child was a boy named Balon the Brave, or the Spring Prince. Balon would become the heir. Balon married his sister Alyssa, and together they would have 3 children, Viserys the First and Daemon Targaryen. They would also have another son, Aegon. Alyssa never recovered from the childbirth, and Aegon died. And when Balon died of a busted belly, there was an heir crisis. The claimants that had the most credit towards their cause was Viserys, the firstborn son of Balon, and Laenor Velaryon, the son of Corlys Velaryon, and Rhaenys, the firstborn daughter of Aemon. So if Westeros wasn't sexist, Rhaenys was indeed the rightful queen, which is how she got the nickname the Queen Who Never Was. But we know how it went. We know how all that went down. They chose the son over the daughter, and Viserys was made the heir. But before it was decided, and behind the scenes, a lot was going on, and Daemon Targaryen was right in the thick of it. Daemon Targaryen was 20 years old. He's described as hot-tempered and quarrelsome. So while great houses and claimants made threats and gathered armies to fight for each petitioner, Daemon Targaryen gathered his own band of sworn swords that vowed to support his brother, Viserys. If Viserys was king, Daemon would be his heir until Viserys had a son of his own. And In my head, I picture these sworn swords that Daemon is gathering as like a bunch of outlaws, sellswords, moon brothers, stone crows, black ears, and burned men like Tyrion. And you will see the dynamic between Viserys and Daemon is also like the Tyrion and Jaime-esque relationship. Like, I don't know if George is doing this on purpose. Like, does it add to Tyrion Targaryen? I don't know. I don't really believe Tyrion Targaryen. But in A Game of Thrones, Tyrion says, only Jaime had ever shown him the smallest measure of affection or respect. And for that, Tyrion was willing to forgive him most anything. And as we go forward, you will see that Viserys is willing to forgive Daemon for almost anything. But to go forward, we must go back. So Daemon Targaryen was a warrior. He was ambitious, impetuous, and moody, charming, and hot-tempered. At 16 years old, he earned his knight spurs and was given the ancient Valyrian steel sword, Dark Sister, by his grandfather, King Jaeherys, in recognition of his prowess. So, in House of the Dragon, we will finally get to see Dark Sister and hopefully Blackfyre as well. So, Daemon was married to Lady Royce of Runestone in the Vale, and he hated every moment of it, apparently. So, in a letter that he wrote, he said, "In the Vale, the men fuck sheep. You cannot blame them. Their sheep are prettier than their women." Not only did he hate the Vale, he hated his wife. He called her his bronze bitch. House Royce, remember Jan Royce? They have a bronze runic armor, and Daemon, he's just crazy. So when his brother took the throne, Daemon asked his brother to have his marriage to Lady Royce put aside, but Viserys said no. But you know what? I'll let you come back to court. Daemon was Maester of Coin for a year and Maester of Laws for half a year. But Daemon wasn't cut out for counting coppers, apparently, and history tells us that being on the small council bored Prince Daemon, which is not 100% accurate. The king's hand, Sir Otto Hightower, didn't want Daemon on the small council. He despised Daemon and convinced Viserys to remove his brother. But knowing Daemon, maybe a part of Daemon was bored of it as well. So the king decided to make Daemon commander of the City Watch. Daemon found the City Watch as a ramshackle, ragamuffin goof troop. Do you hear me? And he transformed it into something that would transcend time and outlive him and even House Targaryen. So finding the Watchmen ill-armed and clad in oddments and rags, Daemon decided to change that. Daemon equipped each man with dirk and short sword and cudgel, armored them in black ringmail, officers got breastplates, and he gave them all the long flowing golden cloaks that they might wear with pride. And ever since then, the City Watch has been known as the Gold Cloaks. But Sir Otto Hightower was likely pissed that Daemon was commander of the City Watch because he had 2,000 men under his command, and if Ned taught us anything, it's whoever holds the City Watch holds the city. Prince Daemon was like a moth to a flame as the commander of the City Watch. It is said that he often prowled the alleys of King's Landing with his men. Like, he truly made the city a lot better than he found it when it came to crime. Although some say like his discipline was a little too brutal. It's said that Prince Daemon would like cut the hands off of pickpockets. He gelded rapists, slit the noses of thieves. And it's also said that he killed 3 men in street brawls in only his first year. So yeah, he was a little brutal, but like shit was under control. Crime was down. So before long, Prince Daemon was known in all the low places of King's Landing. He would be in bars, drinking for free. He would be shooting dice in the gambling pits. Actually, I don't know what exactly he was doing in the gambling pits. He could have been like betting on cockfights or whatever, but we do know he always left richer than he came. He also was a familiar face at all of the brothels. Oh yes, the brothels. Daemon loved the ladies and the ladies loved Daemon. But it's said that Daemon liked virgins. He took a fondness to deflowering maidens. And at these brothels, he met a Alysanne dancing girl named Mysaria. He took a fondness to Mysaria and she became his favorite. By all the laws of the 7 kingdoms, by every single law of the 7 kingdoms, Daemon should have been named Prince of Dragonstone. He was his brother's heir, whether Viserys liked it or not. Viserys refused to grant him that honor, though. He refused to name him his heir or Prince of Dragonstone. However, his friends hailed him Prince of the City, and the small folk called him Lord Fleabottom. Daemon and Viserys, they're like a bit of opposites. So Viserys was a dragon rider until Balerion died, but he was never a warrior. He was like a go along to get along kind of guy, somewhat of a pushover, eager to please everyone. He doesn't really like discourse. He just wants everyone to be happy and get along. He's plump and lovey-dovey, but Daemon was the opposite. So Daemon is hard and lean. He was a dragon rider of Caraxes, a renowned warrior. History describes him as dashing and daring and dangerous. It is written that while the king did not wish Daemon to succeed him, he remained fond of his younger brother and was quick to forgive his many offenses. So King Viserys likely did not want to name Daemon his successor because he knew he would have a son and he likely saw it as pointless. But also Sir Otto Hightower, the king's hand, despises Daemon, so he's likely tainting the waters as well. Well, we know that he was. We know Sir Otto Hightower was. Sir Otto Hightower is trash. On no account can Prince Daemon be allowed to ascend the Iron Throne. He could be a second Maegor the Cruel, or worse. Better the realm's delight than Lord Fleabottom. Like I said, Viserys didn't really like discourse, and he loved his brother, but history says that he wasn't blind to Daemon's flaws. His daughter was his life's great joy, but a brother is a brother. Viserys tried countless times to make peace between Sir Otto Hightower and Daemon, but it never worked. And when they would press Viserys on it, he would simply say, look, chill the fuck out. My queen will give me a son. And let me interject here a little bit. Let me interject with some analysis real quick. So Sir Otto Hightower was the actual issue in all of this shit. Sure, Daemon has flaws, as does everyone, but Sir Otto Hightower was an ambitious man that jumped way above himself on many occasions. He wants to rewrite laws when they don't fit his agenda, and then follow them when they do fit his agenda. The problem with Daemon succeeding Viserys had little to do with the kind of king that he would be, and more to do with how Sir Otto would favor would Daemon be king, which his handship would end immediately, and he would go back to being a random second son knight of a great house. But I digress. So King Viserys' wife, Queen Aemma, finally gave birth to Viserys' son, his heir, and she died. And so did the little baby boy. History says that Daemon Targaryen was observed on the streets of Silk making drunken japes with his highborn cronies about the heir for a day. Basically, we are to believe that Daemon Targaryen was walking the streets of King's Landing drunk, celebrating the death of his nephew. One version of the tale says that it was a whore that was sitting on his lap that informed on him. Another version says it was a member of the Gold Cloaks, eager for advancement. And I don't buy this. I don't buy this outright, and let me tell you why. For one, GRR writes history to be unreliable. We know how he writes. He writes people plotting and scheming, so for this to happen just outright seems a little off. So the Street of Silk is where the brothels are. So why would a woman in a pleasure house inform on Prince Daemon? He's a regular patron, described as a most valued patron. So why would a woman in a pleasure house risk the money of one of their most valuable clients? And not only that, Daemon is hot-tempered. Why would you risk his wrath if they don't believe you? Unless you had certain assurances from the hand to fabricate a story. Does this sound familiar? And then the other story of the Gold Cloak informer looking for advancement doesn't really shake out either, because if a member of the Gold Cloaks is hanging around in a brothel with Prince Daemon, then he isn't a nobody. Also, Daemon was loved by the Gold Cloaks and he made them what they are. But most importantly, I doubt the truth of this because of what it led to. So when Viserys got this news, he was livid and he named Rhaenyra his heir. So I believe that Sir Otto Hightower orchestrated this whole farce to get King Viserys angry at Daemon and force his hand on naming Rhaenyra his heir. So So it was settled. Rhaenyra Targaryen was heir to the Iron Throne. Sir Otto Hightower got his way, which makes the latter events of this story that much more clear. Sir Otto was just an ambitious piece of shit. So Prince Daemon, he's furious. He resigned his position and he went to Dragonstone on the dragon Caraxes with the Lyseni dancing girl Mysaria, or Lady Misery, the White Worm. So Mysaria got pregnant and Daemon presented her with a dragon egg. Mind you, like, Daemon is still married to Lady Royce and she's somewhere in the Vale while he's out here making babies and presenting bitches with dragon eggs. So Viserys got mad all over again. He commanded Daemon to send his whore away and go back to his lawful wife or be attainted and named a traitor. So Daemon, He obeyed. He sent Lady Misery back to Lys, took the dragon's egg back, and he returned to his bronze bitch in Runestone. But while going back to Lys, Lady Misery lost the baby in a storm on the Narrow Sea. So ever since then, Daemon's heart, it hardened towards his brother. So thereafter, he only spoke of Viserys with disdain, and he began to brood day and night on the succession, so history tells us. So while Daemon was brooding in the Vale, King Viserys took a second wife, Queen Alysanne Hightower, daughter of Sir Otto Hightower. It is said that Daemon whipped the serving man that brought him the news within an inch of his life. So why did Daemon have such a reaction? Was it because he knew his brother would have more children? Likely not. He knew his brother was young, 30 years old. Of course he would wed again and have more children. Was it because Daemon allegedly deflowered Queen Alysanne? I don't know. I don't think so. It's likely the anger that Sir Otto Hightower had jumped above himself to the point that his daughter was now queen. Sir Otto was no longer just the king's hand. He was the father of the queen. He would be grandfather to the queen and king's children. That's a lot to take in for a man that Sir Otto Hightower has tried to steal everything from and constantly undermine the king when it comes to Daemon. That's where I think this anger came from. So Daemon was through with the Vale. He couldn't suffer it any longer. He got on Caraxes and he flew to Driftmark to meet with Lord Corlys Velaryon, the Sea Snake. So the Sea Snake wasn't happy with Viserys because the king overlooked his daughter Laena and married Queen Alysanne instead. But when Daemon got there, this is what Daemon told the Sea Snake. Dark sister was made for nobler tasks than slaughtering sheep. She has a thirst for blood. At this moment, Daemon had enough power to take the Iron Throne. He had Caraxes, he had the Sea Snake. The Sea Snake's wife had her dragon Meleys. Their daughter had a dragon Vhagar. But Viserys no longer had a dragon. Balerion was dead. Rhaenyra was a child, and the king had no way to stop a dragon assault aided by the Sea Snake's fleet. But the evil monster that everyone claims to be the vilest of villains didn't take his brother's kingdom. He didn't launch a full assault on King's Landing. He decided to carve out a kingdom for himself, and he did it in the Stepstones. So the Stepstones is a chain of islands in the Narrow Sea and Summer Sea. The Stepstones were controlled by the three daughters, Lys, Myr, and Tyrosh. Those three daughters are known as the Triarchy. So the Triarchy charges a toll for ships to pass through the Narrow Sea, and the tolls kept rising and rising and rising. So the Sea Snake, whose wealth was built on export and import and ships and etc., was tired of their asses taxing him. And Daemon just wanted blood and glory and a kingdom. So Corlys and Daemon went to the Stepstones and took that shit with ships, fire, and blood. Daemon assembled an army of adventurers and second sons and won many victories in the first 2 years of war. One of the commanders was a Myrish prince, Cragus Drahar. Daemon cut his head off with Dark Sister. Viserys was happy that Daemon was out of his hair and not causing discourse in the kingdom, and playing at war kept his brother out of trouble, so he supported his brother's war. He sent him gold on the regular to finance it. In 3 years' time, Daemon and his armies held all but 2 islands, and the Sea Snake held the waters between. Prince Daemon declared himself king of the Stepstones in the Narrow Sea, and the Sea Snake placed a crown on his head. His seat was on the island Bloodstone. But some years later, the Triarchy would strike back, and Daemon would war some more before abandoning the Stepstones altogether for reasons we are about to talk about. So in 111 AC, there was a great tourney that was held at King's Landing. You know it, the 5th year anniversary of Queen Alysanne and King Viserys, where the black gown and the green gown came out and the lines were drawn. One was there who wore neither green nor black, but rather gold and silver. Prince Damon had last returned to court, wearing a crown and styling himself King of the Narrow Sea. He appeared unannounced in the skies above King's Landing on his dragon, circling thrice above the tourney grounds. But when at last he came to earth, he knelt before his brother and offered up his crown as a token of his love and fealty. Viserys returned the crown and kissed Daemon on both cheeks, welcoming him home, and the lords and commons sent up a thunderous cheer as the sons of Prince Daemon Targaryen were reconciled. Amongst those cheering loudest was Princess Rhaenyra, who was thrilled at the return of her favorite uncle and begged him to stay a while. And honey, this is where shit gets messy. So they say that Damon came back to King's Landing and he stayed for about 6 months, but he was still the same old Damon. He took up with his old companions from the Gold Cloaks. He stayed up in them brothels. He also mocked the Greens at court, and it is said he was notably cold towards Queen Alysanne's sons. But Rhaenyra, he doted on her, spent a lot of time with her, told her stories, showered her in gifts, read her poems, dined with her, sailed with her, flew with her. They were tight. And then shit popped off. So sources differ on what happened between Rhaenyra and Damon. We have 4 different stories. One story is that Damon and Viserys argued again, and it says nothing more. Another story says that Queen Alysanne urged Viserys to send Damon away. And then we have 2 stories from Eustace and Mushroom. They are similar, but they're not the same. So Eustace says that Damon seduced Rhaenyra and claimed her maidenhood. They were caught in bed together, and Rhaenyra said they were in love and pleaded with her father that they be married. So Viserys allegedly told his brother to depart and never speak of what happened again. Mushroom says that Damon told Rhaenyra he could make Sir Christian Cole, a Kingsguard knight that she was lusting over, see her as a woman. He taught her to kiss, touch a man, undress enticingly. They did all kinds of scandalous stuff, including going to brothels so she could see for herself, you know, the act of love making. Mushroom insists, though, that the princess remained a maiden, and news reached the king, and he didn't even believe it. He was like, I don't believe it. But then supposedly Damon confessed and said, give the girl to me. Who else will take her now? We don't know which one of these versions are true. And I'm super interested to see what version of this story is played out in House of the Dragon. But we can assume that something indeed happened between Rhaenyra and Damon. And I want to talk about this. There is a 16-year age difference between Rhaenyra and Damon. Damon is a grown-ass man and Rhaenyra is a child. At this time, Damon is 30 years old and Rhaenyra is 14. I know. It's gross. But this isn't the real world. This is a fantasy world where 80-year-old men like Walder Frey marry 14-year-old girls. Daenerys was 14 when she was given to Khal Drogo, who was 32. So the age difference doesn't matter in Westerosi standards in this universe. So Daemon being her uncle, them being related, also doesn't matter in Targaryen standards. Targaryens wed Targaryens all the time. Even Starks have wed uncle to niece. Jon L. Stark married his niece Sansa Stark, and Edric Stark married his niece Serena Stark. So what exactly Varys was clamoring on about in season 8 is like lost on me at this particular moment. And let's move on before I relapse. The point is, Daemon wedding Rhaenyra would not be an issue by Westerosi standards. But there is another issue with all of this. So the common belief is that Daemon prayed preyed on Rhaenyra and groomed her for himself. And he did it because if he couldn't get to the throne on his own, he would get it through Rhaenyra. Now, all of this depends on if you believe the story we are presented with, which is told by historians who don't always accurately tell history. Maybe he actually loved her. She was a beautiful woman known to capture the hearts of those around her. She was cheered as the realm's delight. But maybe he did groom her to eventually use her to get to the Iron Throne. We'll see the true version of events in House of the Dragon. Either way, Daemon was sent away, and Rhaenyra was married to Laenor Velaryon, the son of the sea snake and Rhaenys Targaryen. And Daemon returned to the Stepstones, to his seat on Bloodstone. During all of this, Daemon's wife in the Vale had an accident and died. Daemon flew to the Vale immediately, lying, talking about he was there to put his wife to rest. His wife he abandoned and had a baby on and was likely only there to get her lands and incomes. But instead of her lands and everything passing to Daemon, it passed to her nephew. And Lady Jane basically was like, look, leave the Vale. Your presence is not welcome here. So on his way back to the Stepstones, he goes to Driftmark to treat with the sea snake and Rhaenys. And he met their daughter, a Valerian beauty of 22, tall, slender, surpassingly lovely, with a great mane of silver gold ringlets that fell down past her waist. And she was a dragon rider, the dragon rider of none other than Vhagar. The songs say that Daemon fell in love with Laena, but there was a problem. Laena was betrothed to a son of the Sea Lord of Braavos, and a dead Sea Lord of Braavos. The sea snake no longer wanted Laena to marry this man, though. So Daemon killed him with Dark Sister, and Daemon and Laena were wed 2 weeks later. Viserys had never given his permission, though, and Daemon married way too quickly after his first wife's death. So to avoid the king's wrath, Daemon and Laena took their dragons and flew east. Some say they flew to Valyria, others say Pentos, the Rhoyne, Cohor, Norvos. But we do know that Daemon and his wife settled in Pentos in a when they found out that she was pregnant. It was 116 AC that Laena gave birth to Daemon Targaryen's firstborn daughters, twins. They were named Baela after his father, Baelon, and Rhaena after her mother, Rhaenys. They would both be given dragon eggs that would hatch. The babies were small and sickly, but they were true Targaryens, silver white hair and purple eyes. When they were 6 months old, it was time to return to Westeros. The girls and Laena went on a ship, and Daemon flew ahead with both dragons. So from Driftmark, Daemon sent a raven to the king. He informed the king of his niece's births and begged his brother to let him present the girls at court and receive a royal blessing. Sir Otto and the counselor were like, hell no, to the no, no, no. But Viserys was like, that's my brother, get out of my face. Viserys agreed to it. He loved his brother, which makes you question why he really left in the first place. Like, why did Daemon really leave in the first place? How could Viserys forgive Daemon for defiling his daughter so easily? I don't know if I believe the tales. I don't know if I believe it. Meanwhile, Rhaenyra was popping out Sir Harwin Strong's bastards left and right. Rhaenyra and Daemon's wife, Laena, which is also Rhaenyra's sister-in-law because Laena's brother is Laenor, so they become good friends. Daemon and Laena often visited Rhaenyra on Dragonstone many times. Many times they flew together on their dragons. Now I think Daemon, Laena, and Rhaenyra were having like threesomes. I think Laena and Rhaenyra were box eating. And I think there are several clues that point to this that I will go over in the Rhaenyra video, but let's keep going. So Rhaenyra betrothed her sons, Jaeherys and Lucerys, to Daemon's daughters, Baela and Rhaena. So Laena was pregnant again, and Rhaenyra attended Laena as she gave birth. And Laena gave birth to a twisted and malformed thing, a son that died within an hour. And Laena was deathly ill. Daemon flew to Dragonstone to bring Rhaenyra's maester to aid the maester at Driftmark to help heal Laena, but she perished. And it's said that Rhaena sat vigil over her corpse with Daemon and comforted him in his grief. And it wasn't long after this that Rhaenyra's husband, Laena's brother, Laenor, was dead, killed in Spicetown by Sir Carl Corey. It is said that so many dragons attended Sir Laenor Laenor's funeral that Driftmark had become the new Valyria. And not even 6 months later, Rhaenyra and Daemon were wed in secret. So the king was pissed because it was too soon for them to be married. He said it was an insult to the memories of their deceased spouses. Now, this point has a lot of people talking. There is a theory that they conspired together, Daemon and Rhaenyra conspired together to kill both of their spouses so they could wed each other. That could totally be the case, but I'm not sure. Accidents happen. I think Daemon flying to Dragonstone to bring back a more skilled healer is either proof he wanted his wife to live or he wanted it to look like he tried everything. Daemon's son being born monstrous could hint at some kind of witchery or blood magic in play, but Rhaenyra had a baby that was born monstrous as well by Daemon, so maybe it's like in Daemon's genes. With Daemon widowed, Rhaenyra could rid herself of Laenor. Or Daemon could do it for her. But it seems like Laena and Laenor's parents, the Sea Snake and Rhaenys, never thought or suspected any of this. Daemon and Rhaenyra never fell out of favor with the Sea Snake or Rhaenys. So Rhaenyra gave birth to Daemon's son, Prince Aegon, in 120 AC, and he was pure Targaryen prince with silver hair and dark eyes. She would give Daemon another son a year later, Viserys, named after her father. And meanwhile, Lord Corlys is wondering, like, who should Driftmark pass to should I die? Both of my children are dead. Sir Daemon Valerian said something like, certainly not Rhaenyra's children, they're baseborn bastards of Harwin Strong. And Daemon removed his head for that remark and fed his body to Rhaenyra's dragon Syrax. And so it was. But then Viserys died, and Rhaenyra was the rightful heir by royal decree. But the Greens had other plans. Queen Alysanne crowned her son Aegon, even though it was her father who did everything under the sun to make Rhaenyra the heir. But he chose to follow the rules this time. And so the War Council began. People had grand ideas to reduce King's Landing to ash, but Rhaenyra didn't want that. The Blacks had more dragons, but Daemon was smarter than that. I will not throw our dragons against the usurpers unless I have no other choice. There are other ways to use them, better ways. And Daemon laid down his counsel, and his counsel was followed. And his counsel got them some big wins early. Daemon's strategy was a good one. Send letters to great lords. We must fight this war with words before we go to battle. And Prince Daemon would lead an assault on Harrenhal. Before that, Rhaenyra had to be coronated, and Daemon placed her father's crown on her head and proclaimed her Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. Daemon flew to the Trident on the back of Caraxes, and Daemon took it with no bloodshed. Dragons in Harrenhal were a familiar song, and no one wanted to relive that shit. Prince Daemon then sent forth his call to arms, and Harrenhal was the gathering place. They rose up all around the Riverlands. Knights, men-at-arms, humble peasants, hundreds and thousands of people rose up to fight for their rightful queen. Jaeherys flew north, but Luke flew to Storm's End. And Daemon Targaryen was already there, and he killed Luke and his dragon. Rhaenyra was inconsolable, and as the council thought how they would retaliate, a letter came from Harrenhal. An eye for an eye, a son for a son. Lucerys shall be avenged. That letter was from her husband, Damon. Damon sent Lady Misery to hire Blood and Cheese to sneak into the Red Keep through secret tunnels and forgotten passageways and kill Aegon's heir, a baby. And so they did, in front of his mother. Blood was taking the little boy's head to Harrenhal to Daemon to collect a reward, but was caught. Cheese was never caught, nor was Lady Misery. Helena, Aegon II's wife, went mad with grief. Daemon was warring, and eventually he left Harrenhal, and Daemon and Rhaenyra took King's Landing. And Daemon went back to the Riverlands to find Aemon with Nettles. Now, I'm not gonna go deep into Nettles because this video is already thick as hell. Like, it's thick. And I did an entire video on Nettles already, and I'll link it for you. But I I truly believe that Daemon Targaryen fell in love with the Nettles. Seriously, there isn't a doubt in my mind by their departure from each other, like how it went down, the dragon screaming and breaking all the windows in Jon Quill's tower, the crying, all of it. He loved her and she loved him. But Daemon took off for Harrenhal on Caraxes and Nettles flew away on Sheepstealer. When Daemon found Harrenhal, it was all but abandoned. A few squatters had found shelter there, but when they saw Caraxes' wings, they ran. When the last of them was gone, Daemon Targaryen walked the cavernous halls of Harren's Seat alone, with no companion but his dragon. Can you imagine? Can you fucking imagine that scene in full CGI? I cannot wait to see Daemon and Caraxes walking the halls of Harrenhal. While at Harrenhal, each night at dusk, he slashed the heart tree in the Godswood with Dark Sister to mark a passing of another day. So 13 marks can be seen upon the weirwood still. I think Arya sees them when she's at Harrenhal. These marks are like old wounds on the tree that still bleed fresh every spring. So on the 14th day, Aemon arrived on his dragon, Vhagar. But he wasn't alone. Lady Alice was with him. He let Alice off of Vhagar as Daemon climbed on Caraxes. It was sunset above the god's eye. The dragons locked onto one another in a fury. And the tales tell us that Prince Daemon swung a leg over his saddle and leapt from one dragon to another. In his hand was Dark Sister. As Aemon One Eye looked up in terror, Daemon ripped off his helm and drove the sword down into his eye so hard it came out of the back of his throat. Half a heartbeat later, the dragon struck the lake, sending a gout of water up as tall as Harrenhal. The fisher folk said neither man nor dragon could have survived such impact. Aemon was found years later, still chained to Vhagar in his armor with Dark Sister still stuck in his eyes. Caraxes had managed to crawl from the lake, but she was gutted and she still died. Prince Daemon's remains were never found. The singers say that the old prince survived the fall and made his way back to his girl Nettles and lived out the rest of his days with her. But the historians give the tales no credit. I personally support Daemon and Nettles running off together 100%. But anyway, when Daemon died, Rhaenyra's cause died with him. His son with Rhaenyra, Aegon, would go on to be king. His twin daughters by Laena would be beside their half-brother every step of the way. They would become wives of great lords, but their stories are for another day. So say what you will about Daemon Targaryen. He will have some of the most badass scenes in House of the Dragon, period. And while you might not agree with every wrong thing he's done, George R.R. Martin purposely made him this way. And he made an amazing character that inspires both fear and loyalty. But what do you think? As always, thanks for watching. Thanks to everyone that supports me on Patreon. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please click that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and join the Sweet Summer family. Okay, my sweet summer children, have a good day.